you're in all the cast photos.
Right. And also, I look different. Every other guy's cool, and I'm non-cool. Right. I just like stand out. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Beyond the Backlot podcast, where we take a look at the inside track of movies we love. We kind of go beyond the surface, beyond the hype, and we dive into the below the surface stuff that we find to be amazing about these stories that come to life on the screen from our generation and even a little bit more. And joining me this time on our Beyond the Backlot podcast, we have not only a very special guest, who I'm going to get to in just a second, but we have a couple of the Beyond the Backlot team. Chris Sattel, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Director, producer extraordinaire for all things that we do here at Beyond the Backlot. And joining us this time is Justin Jackson, our writer, a director from some of our special content, and overall just a great writer and funny guy, I might say. Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Justin. We're going to hear from you a little later. And I would do a drum roll, but it's going to shake all the mics. We are super ecstatic to have with us, I'm going to say it, a Hollywood legend, Eddie Deezen, joining us. Eddie, thanks for being here.
So my pleasure. Thank you. I thought a drum roll was in my contract.
Yes. All right, let's bring it in.
Well, I'm out of here. Okay, there we go. All right. Thank you.
I mean, you may recognize Eddie from Grease, from Wargames, from Polar Express, and then, I mean, the TV credits alone would be too many to just talk about in number of appearances you've had. But, I mean, Eddie, you wrap up a lot of people and a lot of generations from Grease all the way to Polar.
Can you believe Grease? We had our 40th anniversary last year. It's hard to, because it was like yesterday. It's
right.
like, but I guess so many things in life are like that, aren't they? But
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday. I was originally catching the bus to go to the set. I was such a young schmendrick, you know. I'd get the bus every day to Paramount Studios in the morning, and then finally Crater Face, Dennis, the bad guy, Dennis C. Stewart, the bad guy in the movie.
Yeah.
We're in makeup one morning, and I'm telling him how I took the bus. He goes, "You take the bus to the set?" He goes, "From now on, I'm going to give you a ride every day." So Crater Face was the nicest guy in the set. He gave me a ride to the set every morning. And then at night, I would be driven home with Sid Caesar.
Oh,
I
my
was in
gosh.
the limousine, I was in the back seat. The driver was named Kirk. Very carefully, he said, "Don't speak to Mr. Caesar unless he speaks to you first." So like an idiot, I'd sit in the back seat. Sid would talk to the guy, and Sid was not necessarily a warm man. He wasn't like John Travolta was a kind man, very warm. Sid was just, I would say he was a very intelligent, erudite guy. And he would talk about things, you know, the Vandals and the Goths would raid the village. He'd talk about history and all this interesting stuff, you know. And I was a 20-year-old kid. I'd just sit there in the back and listen, and he never talked to me. One day, Sid Caesar turns around to me. He goes, "So you're the water boy, huh?" I was the water boy in the movie. Go, "Yes, Mr. Caesar," you know, like an idiot, you know. That was the only time I talked to Sid Caesar. We drive up in the mountains, this winding mountain up to Sid's mansion. You know, these winding hills, whatever the place was, someplace in the Hollywood Hills. Then they would take me home to my little $100 a month apartment, you know, and drop me off at this flea bag, you know. And then the next day I get picked up by Crater Face and we start the cycle again.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're off to the races here because this is what this is about. We want to hear great conversations. We want to hear great stories. Eddie, you were from New England. I mean, you're from Maryland, right?
Maryland, yes, sir.
So, so how does a guy from Maryland end up in Hollywood?
I just, I was in Maryland. I was kind of a ne'er-do-well. I was a class clown. And I guess a lot of us in showbiz, we're all in showbiz. We don't exist anywhere else. I was ne'er-do-well. In school, not only was I bad in school, not only didn't I know any of the subjects, I could barely find the classrooms. I would get lost in the hallways. I was that out of it. So my dad was going to buy me a Dairy Queen in Maryland. He was going to buy me a Dairy Queen when he made that offer. I said, "Dad, I want to go in showbiz, be a comedian." So my dad would send me literally, this is 1975, so it sounds ridiculous now. He'd send me $400 a month to live on, and that was enough in those days. My rent in those days was $100, $125 a month, and that's how I lived. And Dad supported me for a couple years, and it took me 2 years to get Grease. So Grease was when I started earning my own money. But for the first years, Dad supported me.
So in those 2 years, you were doing stand-up? I
did stand-up at the Comedy Store, back at the old Comedy Store. I saw Jimmy Walker there.
Oh, my gosh.
Gabe Kaplan. I never saw Freddie Prinze. It was a little just miss Freddie Prinze. I would love to have seen him, but I saw that gang, in those days. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys remember the Ace Trucking Company. It was a group like the Groundlings are now, but they were like one of the first improv groups. I saw them there.
Wow.
And I did my routine. I was there at the Comedy Store 3 times, and I didn't like doing stand-up because I could never memorize lines. I would literally get on. I read my little cue cards. They were like, da-da-da, this is Eddie Deezen. They didn't applause. Sure, but will you respect me in the morning? That was my opening joke. Corny jokes down the line, and then I did it. The first 2 I got a good reception. The third I bombed, and I just said, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
But ironically, I made my TV debut later in 1976 on The Gong Show with Chuck Barris, who was the nicest guy, wonderful guy, and I did my stand-up routine. Paul Williams gonged me, the composer,
Yeah.
He gonged me. J.P. Morgan was there, and Jamie Farr was there. And ironically, I later did a film with Jamie Farr. He was a very nice guy. But as I was going off stage, J.P. Morgan yelled out, she goes, "We love you, Eddie." That was the first fan reaction I ever got from anybody. Anyway, 20 years later, I meet Paul Williams. I was at a voiceover audition, and Paul Williams is sitting there, the composer. I think he just won an Oscar, didn't he?
I don't know.
Or maybe a Grammy. Maybe he won a Grammy.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, Paul's there. I go, "Mr. Williams, hi." I go, "You gonged me on the Gong Show years ago, 20 years ago." He goes, "Please forgive me." He goes, you got to forgive me." He's getting real serious. I go, "Mr. Williams, of course it was a lark. It was the Gong Show. It's no big deal. You got to forgive me." I go, "Mr. Williams, you're absolved. I forgive you." Then I realized what was going on. He said, "I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous." He goes, "I was an alcoholic in those days. Anybody we hurt, we have to apologize to and make sure it's a good road. That's the regulation." So I go, "Of course I forgive you, Mr. Williams." But he was really serious that I had to give him forgiveness.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and you guys, just in the past 5 minutes, it's like 6 degrees of Eddie Deezen. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I've
forget
thought
Kevin.
of like 6 questions and you've answered them all already.
like you just talked about like a spread of people. Like if forget Kevin Bacon, like we could literally connect almost everything back to Eddie Deezen just in the past 5 minutes because, we were talking before the show, like some of your screen time, whether it was in Grease or War Games, wasn't a lot,
right?
But it was memorable.
Exactly.
Like okay, and you forgive me, but but for your part, it was hard for me as a kid that grew up watching like the old Jerry Lewis films and stuff like that. Was he ever an inspiration to you in some of that?
I'll tell you the Jerry Lewis story after I give you this opening.
Okay.
Jerry Lewis wasn't my hero. He was a god to me.
Okay.
It was always Jerry Lewis, and the other one was Curly Howard of the Three Stooges. I worship that. But I don't look anything like Curly. Right. With Jerry, it's easy to see, the Jewish, the loudmouth Jewish kid, that was me. And I was always skinny, so I kind of fit in as Jerry. Yeah. But Curly Howard, I love just as much. And they're my two supreme idols.
Sure.
To a lesser extent, Daffy Duck. Daffy Duck kind of influenced me, that character. Rattling on, and I could always do that. He's always been my favorite cartoon character. Yeah. And then when we did 1941, I talked to Steve, and he said, Daffy Duck's my favorite cartoon character, too. So we had that in common. But they were heroes. The Marx Brothers I loved. Groucho and Harpo I loved. Stan and Ollie, I just saw the marvelous film Stan and Ollie. I love Laurel and Hardy. I love Chaplin. I love Keaton. I never super got into W.C. Fields like so many of I'm on Facebook, and W.C. Fields, man, I said I'm not crazy about him. You get attacked. W.C. Fields has a huge following. But I loved Dean and Jerry. As a kid, I liked Abbott and Costello, but that kind of faded a little more as the years went on, whereas the others have kind of stuck with me more. Yeah, so those are most of my heroes.
Well, it's good. You say that, and it's not, it makes sense because you start to look at these parts that you played that were pretty iconic. Really, like when you think about those films, you kind of come to the surface, even though not a ton of screen time, but because of the character that you played, and then to hear about some of these inspirations that funneled into that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, how great is it that you're inspired by a cartoon character? I don't think we list cartoon characters as an inspiration nearly enough.
Oh,
sure.
You know what I mean?
If you look at my character, I'm doing Daffy Duck. I literally try to do Daffy Duck. That's who I'm doing.
That is
you
amazing.
Can just see it.
Yeah. I love that. I definitely.
Yeah, right.
I gotta find my inspiration.
The guy was a riot.
Yeah, you got to find your cartoon inspiration.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of honestly, it'd go back to probably like Animaniacs.
Oh, sure.
Oh, they were wonderful. Yeah.
Because just wild, crazy fun. I would say that would be my cartoon inspiration for sure.
Well, speaking of iconic cartoons, you actually did some voice work for Scooby-Doo, the Scooby-Doo
Yes, I've done a lot of Scooby-Doo.
Great work, dude. Sir.
Yeah. What's for dinner?
I'll be in the kitchen fixing a little snack if you need me.
Oh, wow.
There's a heavy penalty for scarfing up the royal lunch. Now, let's see. What was that penalty again?
Colette Sunderman's my favorite director. I love her. Here's an interesting one. In Hollywood, there's always all this spiel about there's no women directors, and which is true. There are always a small percentage of women directors. In animation, they cover the field. It's almost always women in animation. I don't know why that happened, but the animation directors I work for, I'd say at least 75% women. You get a voiceover gig for a cartoon, it's going to be a woman director almost always. I don't know why that happened that way.
So, Grease happens.
Yes.
And Laser Quest was in there. Or
Laser Blast.
Laser Blast was in there.
Which was my first that came out.
Right.
I did Grease first, then Laser Blast, then I Want to Hold Your Hand. But when they were released, Laser Blast, then Grease, Laser Blast, then I Want to Hold Your Hand, then Grease.
Okay.
So Grease was my third out. Yeah.
Did you know how that was going to play out? Like,
no, you always get asked that because you know why? Everybody who does their first film, you're green, and I was green as a lime during Grease,
Yeah.
You always think this is going to be, I'm in the movies. This is going to be Star Wars. This is going to be Citizen Kane. Everybody thinks that. With Grease, it really was. With Grease, It really was Citizen Kane and Star Wars. It's that kind of a legendary movie. So I lucked out.
Yeah.
And then I got my comeuppance with Laser Blast, which was the kind of movie most people do as their first film.
Yeah, because I mean, for Grease, like it was the highest grossing movie of that year.
Yeah.
And then like up until like I think as far as its original release, it was one of the most profitable musical movies.
Yeah, I think it still might be the biggest domestic music. It's either domestic or worldwide.
Yeah.
But Mamma Mia passed it, I know, recently, and maybe another one passed it, but it still holds record in some.
But still, to be a part of that. At the beginning.
Such an honor, yeah.
I mean,
because we did, it was very low budget, Grease was $6 million.
Yeah.
$6 million. It's made God knows how much,
Yeah.
We're still trying to get money from Paramount, the cast room. Well, I love Paramount, by the way. You're wonderful. I don't mean that as a slight to Paramount. They're wonderful people. But
disclaimer back
we're always trying to get some money out of them. Yeah.
So help me out with that. So so this is where like my curiosity gets the best of me because like you said, you were green, your first movie.
Yes.
And no idea that it's going to become this phenomenon. Like when you're working out your contract, when you're working out like what this looks like in the future.
Yeah.
Like who's helping you with that? How is that?
Grease, I got Scale, of course, was my first film. I think at that time Scale was maybe $400 or $500. But at the time I was 20. I thought I was Rockefeller. Getting out of high school. I've been out of high school 2 years.
Yeah.
You think $400 or $500 in 1975, you were Rockefeller. You were, Ross Perot. I thought I have all the money in the world. Yeah, little did you know.
But now, like when you talk about going back to Paramount, like are you guys like in the residuals piece? Does that?
Yeah, residuals we still get good from Grease. We still get good from that, but there's just the Grease gang is always trying to get money. I think it's more because Grease is in the machines, and you live in Vegas. They have Grease video machines,
right?
All that we're trying to get money from that, and da-da-da. So there's always that thing going on.
Yeah, that's where like a little bit both my curiosity and ignorance kind of like because you see that and immediately I think, well, I'm sure someone's getting. Your imagery is up there, your face is up there, or whatever. Like somebody's got to be kicking back something to you for that.
I'm sure Paramount's making so much out of it, But it's like, it's like the James Bond films. The company, wasn't it Sean Connery who was trying to get money from James Bond?
Yeah, I'm sure.
This is, that's ridiculous, but they're making it all. And there's, what creative bookkeeping is. It just goes on.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
But the other hand, I want to make sure this is important. Is I'm so grateful for Grease, the people at Paramount. They were wonderful to me, and I'm not complaining. I was making kind of a bad joke.
I don't hear you complain at all, man.
Yeah,
I don't hear you complain at all. I mean, really, I would expect like that would be a challenge over years because again, no one expected it to be
exactly. Who knew?
Phenomenon. How do you?
Yeah, I mean, I was 20, and then we're 41 years later. Grease is still the phenomenon, but you don't know that when you're 20,
No.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, even like as you step through your career, I was telling you we were watching Wargames with the kids the other night, and again, a couple minutes in that film, but again, the memorable factor.
Hi, Lightman.
I want you to take a look at this.
Hey, what's that?
I wanted Jim to see that.
Wow, where'd you get this?
I was trying to break into Protovision. I wanted to see the program for their new games.
Hey, wait, Jim, I'm not through yet.
Remember you told me to tell you when you were acting rudely and insensitively? Remember that? You're doing it right now.
Absolutely.
Like, good see. Also, that was historic. You know what that was? That was the first computer nerd.
Sure.
I was the first computer nerd. There was Pauline Kael, one of the critics wrote, they go, we have a new movie character here, a computer nerd. And that was the first computer nerd in that. In that film, the breakthrough for me was I did my scene. And in this scene, I had to say the words data encryption algorithm, which is easy now, but we're talking 1983. I was on the set. It's never easy on the set. Yeah. So I go, the data endocrine algorithm, cut. The data endocrine algorithm, cut. I just kept screwing up. So finally, my director was actually Marty Bress. John Badham did it. Marty Bress did War Games for like the first 12 days, and he was fired. They didn't like his rushes. And I was in there with Marty.
Okay.
So I read that in Variety, go, oh my God, they're going to cut my scene. But they left the scene intact, even though Marty was fired. And I'll get people saying, what was it like to work with John Badham? I've never worked with John. I've met him. He's a wonderful guy, but I never worked with him. He took over from Marty. Yeah. And then Marty later did Beverly Hills Cop, so he did fine too.
Yeah,
but anyway, I kept screwing up. So Marty Bress, he crooks his finger. Eddie, come here. We're going to have a little talk. Let's take a walk. He puts his arm around my shoulder. You're costing the studio thousands of dollars. He literally says this because I kept screwing up. He goes, what we're going to do is we're going to get these things called idiot cards. The accent was on idiot when he said that. He goes, we're going to get these things called idiot cards. Okay, I can take a hint, but they write my lines on the card. And I did a perfect take. We go back in, I read the cards. Oh, it's a new data encryption algorithm. We go in, don't take the back door. I read the lines perfectly. One take, we were done. I realized this is great. And that got me the idea to do voiceovers. Voiceovers, you just read your lines, which is a piece of cake. But I've always had trouble memorizing lines through the years. Yeah. When I did Polar Express, Zemeckis, the whole thing for me was on cue cards.
Sure.
Bob got me cue cards through the whole thing, whereas I would act with Hanks and all, and they knew their lines. They were professional, but not me.
Right.
I did my thing on cue cards. Anyway, the last day of the shoot, Hanks, he waited for the last day. He goes, what are you doing using cue cards? He goes, what are you, friggin' Marlon Brando? He's like scolding me. He was like an older brother. Yeah. But he waited till the last day, and he covered for me all through the shoot. Even when I would screw up, I remember screwing up a scene. And Zemeckis goes, cut, and Tom goes, that was my fault. It wasn't Tom's fault. He was just a nice guy.
Yeah.
But it was my fault. But I use cue cards a lot now because I can't memorize lines. Yeah.
Well, real quick, I want to go back to War Games real quick.
Sure.
You talked about your character. You talked about kind of being that first computer nerd.
Yes.
Right? But what's funny is you said it stuck. That role sticks in people's minds. And case in point, when I mentioned to our executive producer that we're going to have you on the show, he immediately started impersonating you in War Games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to find Faulkner's cave. We got.
I can't believe you're giving away all my secrets.
Faulkner's maze.
Faulkner's maze, right?
Sorry. and he just went there immediately, and that's how ingrained it is. That is such an iconic character.
Oh, thank you.
Even though, screen time wise, it might be short, but it doesn't matter. That character is so much a part of War Games.
Yeah.
It is so much a part.
Yeah, it was a great scene.
A computer nerd, an iconic computer nerd.
It's kind of like, because movies are also different, it's kind of like the lady that was Rob Reiner's mother. I'll have what she's having in Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
You can be on screen for a couple seconds and then you become immortal. That's the way movies are, Get one little bit. And then some guys are in a movie the whole way through and it's totally forgettable.
Yep.
It has to be the right character, the right movie, the right dialogue, like that. Here's the tragedy of War Game 4. First of all, I would get picked up every day by Matthew Broderick. Okay. Super nice guy. Just as a sidebar, I want to say what a nice guy was. His father had just passed away at that time. Yeah. And Matthew, I remember, was reminiscent in the car. He had tears in his eyes, literally. And he would talk about his dad, James Broderick, who was a great actor. And Matthew would talk about him. I just wanted to interject that. But here's the tragedy of War Games, which we could do another show on.
I'm sure.
People you almost work with.
Sure.
Who did they want originally to be Falcon in War Games?
Oh, I have no idea.
John Lennon. That role was written for John Lennon.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh,
and then, of course, the horrible thing happened with John. But that was the original War Games script. Yes, it was written for John Lennon.
And you would have died.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding? I'll tell you a couple more of their stories. But that when I came that close to working with John Lennon, I mean, that's, you'd pay them. Please.
And it makes so much sense, too.
Like, Lennon could have been
great. That would have been a great, someone that sits on the outside that like kind of got away from it all.
Yeah, you're right. That would have totally fit his personality.
Total sense.
We did Grease wouldn't be great, but Polar Express.
Yeah.
The tramp on the train, the hobo on the train. Yeah. Hanks was good friends with Marlon Brando, and the role was written for Brando. They wanted Brando, and Tom Hanks goes, Marlon, can you come in? Marlon was really sick at the time. This was towards the end. This was 2003. I think Brando died a couple months later. Can you come in for one day? He goes, we'll give you cue cards. We'll knock it off. And Marlon was just too sick. He couldn't. And I go, this close to working in a film with Marlon Brando?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, me with Marlon Brando. My friend goes, corned beef and roses. Deezen with Marlon Brando.
Well, I want want to say something too.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty brilliant strategy that you have all these actors pick you up.
Oh, seriously. I was about to say the same thing.
Like your stories that you got out of that of just hitching rides with
Eddie never owned a car.
Cast and filmmakers.
You never can't drive. No.
Riding in car
No.
with Eddie Deezen.
There
That's
is
really
me, Shemp Howard is that way. Shemp never drove. A couple actors are that way. There's another actor that's a famous actor that doesn't drive. I forget who it is, but he gets driven everywhere. Maybe it's not Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn doesn't have a phone or something, or doesn't have a computer or something.
Well, Eddie Murphy's one of those, right?
Doesn't drive?
I don't believe he has a cell phone.
Bill Murray does.
Is that right?
Bill Murray's got like a 1-800 number.
All right, and comment if
Oh my
we are
God.
completely wrong. Just go ahead and say you guys don't know anything.
Everybody listen to this. Tell us what we're right and wrong about. Eddie Murphy, please text us. And tell us.
Here's the last one close by. I'll just give you the last tragic one. I did Critters 2, the main course,
Yes,
one of the Critters
yes.
trilogy. Critters 3 was a film debut of Leonardo DiCaprio. I missed DiCaprio by one film. It was a direct-to-video job. DiCaprio did Critters 3. I missed it by one movie working with DiCaprio.
Again, these would have all increased the degrees of separation.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You really
Yeah.
would have been tied to everybody.
Yeah.
So okay, so I want to rewind the tape a little bit because there's something here I think is really that I'd love to know more about.
Sure.
Is that so you leave home to go to Hollywood,
Right.
And I mean, were your parents okay with it? Like, were they?
No, my mom wanted me to. You know how Jewish mother.
Sure.
I think I was out 2 weeks. Mom, it's about time you came home.
Right.
Yeah, Mom, I've given it 2 weeks. I'm not a movie star yet, but that's my mom.
So you go away from home, and dad's making sure you're taken care of.
Yeah.
But then within some time, you're on the screen, and at that time,
2 years it took.
At that time,
That's not long.
In Hollywood, that's not bad.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're like, did your parents' tune shift at all? Were they like, oh my gosh?
Well, here I'll tell
did
you.
it.
I'll tell you a Grease story. I don't know if you're religious, if any of you are religious, or if you have faith. This is a true Grease story. Religious people say this is a great story. Non-believers say total coincidence. But I got Grease. Okay, I got cast in Grease.
Yeah.
I went in for the audition. I read for Alan Carr, the producer, Randall Kleiser, our director, and Joel Thurman was the casting director. Was there. So I'm there at the audition. I have like 3 lines. I noticed they were nudging me at the They were nudging each other at the audition. So I knew I did good. When an actor's auditioning, you see them nudging each other. That's a good sign. So they nudge each other. Anyway, cut to the chase. I got cast in Grease. So they tell me. So I tell my parents. I tell all my friends. I'm in this movie with John Travolta. So a couple days later, Paramount Studios call me. They go, "We're going to cut the role Eugene out of Grease. He's not going to be in anymore. It's a small role. We're going to dispense with it. We're sorry." I'm having a conniption. I told everybody I'm going to be in Grease. Not only is it tragic for me, but I've told everybody, so I look like a fool.
Right.
Anyway, my agent calls me. She goes, "Eddie, we're going to go to church and pray." I'm Jewish. I've never been in church. She goes, "We're going to go to church and pray." So literally, I went. The church is still there on Vermont. It's called Our Mother of Good Counsel. We went there in church. Her and I. We're going to light a candle. What? We light candles at Hanukkah? No. We're going to light a candle on an altar. We go to an altar. My agent and I. We lit a candle. We each lit a candle and we prayed fervently. Literally, it was like either the next day or 2 days or whatever. Paramount called back. They said, "Eugene is back in Grease. You're back in the movie."
Oh my gosh.
Now a religious person, what a great story. A non-believer goes, "Total coincidence. You lucked out." So however you want to take it. But that is 100% true story.
The Lord wanted you in Grease.
That's right.
Eddie.
Exactly. That's right. He wanted me to get cut out all those scenes. Grease, I got a lot of scenes cut out. I'm in Grease a little bit, but Eugene, if you see the play, Eugene is a much bigger role.
Yeah, he's a much bigger role.
But I got cut out of a lot of Grease. They left me get the pie in the face. That was my big scene.
Classic.
And
Yeah.
I walked down the stairs and the guys kind of hassled
Yeah.
me. And then you see me bouncing around in the dance scene.
That's the scene where I saw Jerry Lewis. Like the blue blazer and the briefcase was oh my gosh, this is like the Nutty Professor.
Yeah,
So that whole vibe.
Well, you know who that did? Pee Wee Herman. I did Pee Wee's first film. Was not his first one, but he did Midnight Madness. Was an early film.
Right. Paul Rubens. Yeah.
You look at that. That's Pee Wee's outfit. That Pee Wee Herman has that exact same outfit.
Totally. Yeah,
and
you're
Pee-wee,
right.
and he's a nice guy. He said part of his character was inspired by me.
Oh, wow.
And but more power to him. He's a tremendously talented guy, and he's a great friend of mine. But that outfit is Pee Wee Herman. That's where he got the outfit.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you get on screen, not just in one great movie, but then subsequently like 3 movies, and mom and dad are proud, right?
Yeah. I mean, Mom and I were always best friends. It's always subjective. Dad and I were never that close. So, but Dad, was proud. Yeah. After he died, Mom said he had all my letters and all that stuff. But Dad and I were not that close. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, you did it.
Yeah.
I mean, like that. You weren't. So we weren't super connected.
Sorry, I was on Freud's couch there getting my psychoanalysis. My father and I had some.
Tell us about your mother.
But like but nowadays, because we're connected, because we have all this stuff telling us all these stories that we never heard before, then for you to go, you're connected by a landline at best to talk to family, and all of a sudden now you're like, this is like the dream. Like you fulfilled.
Yeah, I lucked out.
This dream.
Yeah.
And so that kind of steps us through your career from movie then to TV. Like TV took off for you.
I did a lot of different roles. Yeah. Never had to. I did 9 pilots. The only one that ever saw was Punky Brewster was called.
Right. And you were the pilot of that, right?
I was in the pilot of that. Yeah. I think it's the only 3-part pilot ever. 3 or 4-part pilot we had, but it was a 4-part pilot. And it sold. I did parts 2 and 3 or something.
With Punky Brewster, how did things like Facts of Life, Magnum P.I., all those parts, how did those show up?
Just going to auditions. Magnum P.I. was an interesting one in the audition, and it's an interesting lesson about life. In Magnum P.I., you get the breakdowns, and they go da-da-da, and they go, make sure you wear a suit to the audition. So you know what? I'm going to just try not wearing a suit. They were emphatic, wear a suit. I go there. There's a room full of casting call. All the guys had suits, and I had casual clothes on, and I got the role. So it goes. Sometimes you break it. Sometimes in life you follow the rules. Sometimes if you feel it in your gut, go against the rules. If it doesn't hurt anybody, and that worked out for Magnum. Tom Selleck was the greatest guy in the world. All the cast of Magnum. It was. Being in Hawaii was paradise.
Oh, yeah.
I did a softball episode with Dick Shawn. He was a great guy. They had a softball team, the Buzzettes. These girls, one of these girls was hitting on me all through it, but I wasn't attracted. I'm straight. I love pretty girls, but she was hitting on me through the whole show. And Tom Selleck's there giving me advice. He goes, take her to the club Hubba Hubba. He goes, don't go to the club Hubba Hubba. He goes, that's a dump. I'm getting women advice from Tom Selleck, Eddie Deezen.
Yes,
the joke
amazing.
of all time. Tom Selleck can raise his eyebrow and get any woman in the world. I could have $1 million. I'm not going to get women, but whatever.
Did he loan you his mustache?
That's right, really. Right.
Take this for the night. There you go, bud.
Works wonders.
Oh my gosh! So that was something where did you audition in California and then they just
auditioned in California, flew to Hawaii. It was wonderful shooting. It was like paradise. Hawaii was paradise.
Sure.
The off days we go to the beach. We go to the museums, and the cast of Magnum was all wonderful. John Hillerman passed away like a year ago, and it was strange to see him because he talks like he was in Blazing Saddles. He was a Texan.
Okay.
He's like, hey, Eddie, how are you? Good to see you, boy. Texan. He's a Texas drawl.
Yeah.
But in the show, he's this erudite Englishman, a British oak. Good to see it. And that's, But at breakfast, give me some of them bacon and eggs. And this is Higgins, It was weird seeing him, but it shows what a good actor he was.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Voice of Kit, by the way, right?
Yes.
Voice, Knight Rider. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had hit us with like even before we got to recording, you had hit us with things like Facts of Life, where you were with, who was it you were with?
Kim. Well, the one girl in my episode was Kim Fields. Oh, Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover.
That was Crispin Glover's first gig.
Yeah.
And we became instant friends. He was a great guy.
Yeah, and you guys are still friends to this day?
I haven't seen him in ages. I mean, we're still friends, but I haven't seen him.
Sure.
Hollywood, you drift apart. It's like you do the film and you hug everybody, and that's usually it. Usually, unless you do a series,
Sure.
Right.
But we had him over to play poker once, and he's just like he was in Back to the Future. Oh heck, I lost all bid, Oh heck, I lost $30 in that hand. Oh, I guess I made the wrong. He's just like the guy. He's like George McFly.
Yeah, right.
He plays poker just like George McFly.
So give us. You mentioned a couple about like the 9 pilots you did.
Yes.
Like, were there some things that you didn't get that we would go, oh, you should have got that? Like it would have been Eddie Deezen should have been
those
all over.
pilots.
Yeah, or even some movies or stuff that you auditioned for.
Oh God, yeah. Let me think.
I have a question about one. Riptide had a very famous.
That guy was doing me. Totally was.
Marie
Totally
Basinski.
was. Yeah, is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I never saw the show, but I get people go, that guy is ripping you off. They go, da-da-da, but I never saw the show. Yeah.
That was great.
So you didn't get a call for it or anything like that?
No, never did. Never did for Riptide. Yeah.
Was he the same guy in Revenge of the Nerds? No.
I don't know, but there's a little bit of drama with Revenge of the Nerds, too.
That
right?
one I should have done. I always get asked that. Now, I did a film with Adam Field. Revenge of the Nerds is a classic.
Sure.
That's kind of, I did a turkey called, well, not a turkey, but it's called The Whoopie Boys. It was a fair movie. It was a B movie, but Adam Field, who did Revenge of the Nerds, did it, the producer. So, of course, I went up, Mr. Field, why didn't you put me in Revenge of the Nerds? Aren't I a natural? He goes, the joke of Revenge of the Nerds is we want to get regular guys and dress. This is what he told me. He said, we wanted to get regular guys and dress them up to look like nerds. He goes, you're already there. He goes, you look like this. And we're like, so we didn't want you. That's what he told me. But I get asked that all the time. Why weren't you in Revenge of the Nerds? Or I get mistaken for the guy in Revenge of the Nerds. Yeah.
Can you do a Pee Wee Herman laugh?
No, it's I can't do it. But that was Pee Wee. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
That was good. That was good.
That's because you're a good teacher.
Thank you. No cue cards needed.
That sound is just on repeat in your head.
It is.
It's his ringtone on his phone. So, movies, TV, and then the world of VO opens up for you.
Voiceovers, which was a piece of cake because I can just read lines. My biggest button has always been memorizing lines.
Okay.
Whereas Jackie Gleason, I heard, Desi Arnaz, they open a script, they look at it, and they know the whole script. They know everybody else's lines. Shemp was that way.
Yeah.
Shemp could do the whole script. He knew everybody's line. Curly was like me. He couldn't memorize lines.
Yeah.
The story with Curly is literally, he would forget lines, and that's how, the Curly spin on the ground. He just ad-libbed it one day. He forgot his line, and Mo goes, what's he going to do? And Curly just got on the ground and started spinning around. That's how the Curly spin started.
Or just make up noises, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they would give him free reign. Jules White would go. They wouldn't know what to do in a scene, and he'd go, "Look, you do whatever you want. I know you're going to be great." And Curly, he said, would never let him down. They just let Curly do whatever he wanted. Yeah.
So voiceover, like, what was that shift for you? Like,
I started getting into about the mid '80s, and I did a lot of cartoon shows. I was at old Cartoon Network, the Scooby-Doos. I did a lot of the old Scooby-Doos. Johnny Bravo. I don't know if I did a Powerpuff Girls. I might have done one. I did like one episode of all those. I did Eek the Cat. I did one. I did one with Tim Curry. What was that series? He did a cartoon show. Oh, gosh, but I did one with Tim Curry. He was a great guy. Yeah. I forget what it was, but I did one with him. I did one with Jason Alexander. I used to do the one with the Duck. Duckman, yes.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had never seen Seinfeld.
Okay.
I didn't get Seinfeld until a couple years later. And I love Seinfeld, but at the time I go, Mr. Alexander, I go, he did a potato chip commercial. I go, you were great in that potato chip commercial. I thought, what an idiot. But that's the only time I ever seen the guy. He's in a potato chip commercial. And then I watched Seinfeld, and I go, that's that guy. That was Jason Alexander.
But you did Dexter's Laboratory, right?
I did Dexter later. Yeah, Dexter we started doing about 89, I think it started, maybe 87 or around those years. We did it for about 6 or 7 years. I was not a regular, but I was a recurring character as Mandark. And that, I love doing that.
Yeah.
Chris Cavanaugh, who was in the movie Babe.
Okay.
She starred in Babe, and she was wonderful. Chris, in fact, I did her first voiceover job. I swear, Chris and I were a married couple together on a radio voiceover, and we were old friends, and I did that. Chris had a lot of problems later, and she was being treated, and she'd take a lot of drugs, and I remember she was having a real hard time, and then finally she passed away about 10 or 15 years ago or whatever. She died very young, and another girl replaced her, and who was good, but Chris was the role. You know, Chris made it.
Yeah.
And we had Dee Dee. This is a weird one that I've never heard of. The girl that played Dee Dee left to be with her boyfriend, and another girl took over for her. Okay, then the other girl decided to come back, and she came back, and they fired the girl. Then she left the show again, and the other girl took over again. So there were 4 Dee Dee changes. Yeah, 4 Dee Dee changes, which I've never heard of for another actress, but they did it that way with her. Yeah.
Here's something I want to know.
Yeah.
What's it like to see an animated figure of your voice? You know what I mean? Like, what's that? Just talk us through
Very
that
cool.
experience.
Very cool.
You know
But
what I mean?
Mandark looks just like me, because Mandark looks just like me. In fact, I'm doing the Comic-Con in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm leaving Thursday, and I'm getting all these Mandark pictures, and I saw these pictures of Mandark. That does look just like me. He's a skinny guy with a big head and glasses. It looks just like me. Yeah. But it's a cool trip, yeah. Polar Express doesn't really look like me, but Polar Express, when we started the movie, they said, we want you all to bring us childhood pictures of you. So I went to the old scrapbook, and gave pictures. But it doesn't look like me that much. But that is, the kids you see, Tom, me, Peter Scolari, and Nona Gay, are all based on us as kids. They're pictures they use. But the Polar Express picture doesn't look, first of all, when I was a little kid, I didn't wear glasses. So that was added. I started wearing glasses when I was about 12. Polar Express, I guess, we're about, 8, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So turn the corner there, take us a little bit through how your previous connections from early on got you that seat at the table for Polar Express.
Okay, Polar Express, I went in and I was supposed to loop a line or something. It was just to loop a line. Now, Bob Zemeckis said he had me from the very beginning. Or no, you know what it was? The guy that did the music for Bob. It's like John Williams does. This guy does all the movies for...
Is it Alan Silvestri?
That's it,
yeah,
Alan.
Yeah.
I saw him at the rap party. And he said Bob knew from the word go you were going to be know-it-all no matter what. But I've talked to other guys that go, I auditioned for know-it-all, they said. Or they said know-it-all was like added or something. But it's a confusing story. But I trust Bob. Bob said he wrote me in. So, but anyway, I went in to do, it was supposedly a few looping lines. Bob was in this screen. I hadn't seen him since 1941, like 25 years.
The movie, not the year.
Exactly. Bob is in the room. He looks real blasé. So I would do a take. I'd do a line, I want all those presents, Santa Claus, or whatever. I'd say the line. And Bob would be give me a thumbs up like Nero.
Right.
He's like bored and blasé. If he liked the line, thumbs up, we did it. If he didn't like it, I'd do another take like that. Then he came out and I started talking about this experience we'd had, me, Bob, and Steven, which I can't do on your show because it's a family show.
Yeah, okay,
we had an interesting experience in New York. I'll tell you when the mics are off. The story. It's a great story. But anyway, I said, I better establish reality with this guy, remind him who I am. He knew who I was, I guess, but I want to remind him of that time. And I reminded him, and Bob smiled and he talked about that old experience we had. And then I was written into it. Yeah.
Huh. And did you know at that time what kind of technology, like how this was going to be kind of a groundbreaking thing?
Motion capture was an all new thing at that time. I had no idea.
Yeah.
What we did in this process every day in Polar Express, we go in, me, Tom, Peter, and Nona, we'd get into a scuba diving suit.
Yeah.
We'd get a bathing cap. They would literally glue it to our heads. The girl would glue our head and glue a bathing cap on our head. We'd get 152 marks on our face. They'd get it like a flare pen or whatever and mark 152. Then they would glue these electric dots to the 152 spots to our face. So we were in makeup for like 2 or 3 hours every day.
Oh my gosh.
If you'd lose a dot, they had a guy on a walkie-talkie. They go, Eddie lost number 138 or literally. And they go get it, and they get me number 138, and they glue a new 138 to my face. That's how and they'd shot, I don't know how the technology was, but they'd shoot our scene, okay? Me, Tom, Peter, and we go, da-da-da-da, I want to see Santa Claus, da-da-da, cut. Then they had 4 kids. They had a kid, Tom Hanks, me, a kid, Peter, and a kid, Nona. And they do the same scene. And they do, the little Eddie Deezen would go, I want to see Santa Claus, and they do Tom Hanks, and they cut, and somehow they morphed us together. That was the technology.
Unbelievable.
But somehow it was weird. We do one scene grown-ups, one scene kids of every scene in Polar Express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Eddie Deezen here on the Beyond the Backlot podcast. I think we're going to take some time here to wrap it up. So I always want to thank Chris, Justin for being here, our Beyond the Backlot team, and of course our amazing special guest, Eddie. Thank you so much.
Well, what a wonderful show you have. I mean, Muzzle Tov, keep it going. This show should so be on TV.
Well,
really, I mean, to devote to a movie like that. We didn't do ours on one movie.
Yeah.
But your concept you told me about going and visiting the sets of a movie, that's such a natural for cable. It would be such a natural on TV.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
We're excited to see
I would watch that easy.
Well, we hope you continue to watch.
You'll be able to on YouTube. And we're bringing episodes to every person who has internet.
Okay, cool.
You know what I mean? Thank you for being here, man.
Oh, my pleasure. This was wonderful people. I had a really good time. Thank you.
I mean, really, just amazing to hear your connections and people you have interacted with and worked with. I mean, it's just great
and to think if you came to the LA area and you ride a bus.
Yeah.
You could be riding next to a Hollywood legend.
Right. Thank you.
If you needed a ride, look what could happen. So all of you young actors out there, take a note from Eddie's book.
What's the best show on podcast lines today, and what's the best show on all the internet? And the answer come back, Beyond the Backlot. What's the greatest show I've ever seen on anything on internet or anything on YouTube or anything I've ever done on computers? And the answer come back, it's Beyond the Backlot. Beyond the Backlot is the greatest show ever. It's the greatest internet show, the greatest podcast show ever. As I screw up my lines, it's the greatest podcast show ever done. Watch that show because I know I tune in and I always enjoy it. It's a great show.
Awesome.
Eddie Deezen, everybody. Man, the myth, the legend, Eddie Deezen. Hey, this has been a real treat. Thank you all for joining us on the Beyond the Backlot podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, on Google Play, wherever you find your podcast. Go to Facebook Watch. We're there too. Also, go to Instagram at Beyond the Backlot. We would love to connect with you. Email us at concessions@beyondthebacklot.com. For now, I'm your host, Curtis Templeton, with our Beyond the Backlot team. And of course, Eddie Deezen. We're all saying goodbye, and we'll see you next time on the Beyond the Backlot podcast.